There are many challenges that face the procurement practitioner during normal operations. These challenges are further elevated during an emergency, and in some cases, the challenge at hand can seem insurmountable. This short presentation is aimed at guiding the procurement practitioner and the non-practitioner on how to conduct themselves before, during, and after an emergency, while participating or executing various procurement activities. An emergency creates a unique opportunity for suppliers and the procurement professional. During the time of the emergency, it is important for both parties to conduct themselves in an ethical manner while ensuring they respond appropriately to the situation at hand. The principles of procurement will never change, and during an emergency, they still don't change. Notwithstanding, there are some key objectives that the practitioner must ensure they keep in mind with every activity that they undertake. Continue with business as usual. Once there is an activity that is not a part of the response to the emergency at hand, this should go through this regular process and the regular system as if there was no emergency. Support small business and innovation. Now it is important. Small businesses during an emergency, oftentimes they can change their business model to make a product that would respond effectively to the situation at hand. Everything that is done in an emergency is to ensure that ultimately we preserve life and well-being, and whatever it is that is required, once we keep it within the bounds of the law, should be followed at all times and ensure that primarily we preserve life and well-being and nothing takes precedence above that. If the practitioner is going to survive the emergency, it is important to do so and conduct every activity with integrity, and bear in mind that accountability will follow suit immediately after the emergency. So all steps must be taken to document properly all the things that you have done, ensuring that you can defend all the positions that you would have taken, all actions you would have taken, and everything that has been done during the emergency. For the purpose of this presentation, we have reduced the activities that would take place during an emergency into three primary stages. Stage 1 being the immediate response. Stage 2, sustained emergency relief. And Stage 3, the recovery response. Now we'll go into each stage a little more in depth in the slides to follow. The immediate response stage. In this stage, the response is rapid and reactive. So you're constantly changing, constantly reacting, constantly responding to various activities, sometimes simultaneously, that is taking place. Ultimately, this seeks to provide immediate relief to critical events that have a direct impact on life or public safety. Some examples of this would be the purchasing of critical equipment for different hospitals, or sourcing food or other types of supplies that may impact life directly or the safety of the staff or the public at large. Now let's take a look at what the immediate response stage looks like in practice. One, you may be called upon to apply common sense in a number of your actions. You will be using sound reasoning and judgment, and all of this will be done whilst under immense pressure. Secondly, you will probably not be able to get written approvals and go through all the various stages. In a lot of cases, you'll be getting verbal approval, and these you must ensure you follow up in writing. There will be increased use of electronic approvals and documentations, where you would require a number of paper-based approvals. A lot of these may come in the form of an email, a text message, a WhatsApp message, whatever it is that your environment requires or allows. It may only be a simple text message or even a voice recording. Importantly, in everything, keep your records. both electronically and hard copy, wherever available for future needs. You never know what you will need later on when you're putting the final paperwork together to tell the story of everything that you would have done during the emergency. In a lot of cases, you won't have the time to undertake formal procurement, meaning the competitive process, which is the preferred process for most entities. In this case of emergency, you may be engaging in single source procurement quite frequently. Again, what is important is to be able to justify why you would have used such a process if nothing else allowed it. And again, bear in mind, if it doesn't warrant it, continue as business as usual. You may be required to use a purchase order, some kind of short-term contract. In cases where you would have used a lengthy contract form, in some cases you'll be using a shortened technical requirements where you would have been given long technical requirements. Ultimately, everything that you do in this stage is to respond as quickly as possible. Stage 2, sustained emergency relief. An emergency response is required to urgently sustain core services once immediate criticality has been addressed. These procurements may be appropriate where there is no direct impact on human life, no threat to significant environments or infrastructure, but there is still a need to respond urgently to sustain and maintain the services to the public. Now let's take a look at the sustained emergency relief in practice. Firstly, you will need to identify the need, specify and prioritize the immediate procurement requirements. Secondly, speak with your hospitals or health departments, or if it's not in the health sector, speak with other local entities within the government or within your region and see if there's any opportunity to collaborate to reduce duplication of efforts and speed the response process. Use established arrangements and pre-qualified suppliers, especially suppliers who you have done business with before or suppliers who have an existing arrangement with you. It may be a case where you ask a supplier, instead of providing one item, they provide another item instead. Importantly for the practitioner is to check with your supplier for advice on frontline conditions. In some cases during an emergency, the supply chain may be so disruptive that the supplier can no longer respond to you in a timely manner. Some suppliers may be getting things from a location where it has been shut down or it has been significantly affected by the emergency at hand. It is important, especially during an emergency, to have the conversations with your suppliers. Advise your suppliers that the purchase is subjective to the event and ensure that they understand that it can be revoked at any time and returned to the normal process once the conditions have changed and it dictates that you no longer have the need to be in emergency mode. Again, we state, confirm all arrangements in writing. It is important, even if you have a verbal approval, follow up with something in writing. It protects all parties concerned. Again, I say it may only be a text message, it may also be an email. As best as possible, follow up in writing and ensure that you have it documented and saved and it becomes a part of your procurement record. The final stage, the recovery response. This is enabled when the threat has passed or the emergency conditions have been lifted. Importantly, this simply means return to the normal business process and all your rules come back in full effect once that has been confirmed. In everything that will be done during an emergency, let me leave you with some key principles to keep in mind whilst you're executing. 1. Make sure decisions made in this rapidly moving environment can withstand public scrutiny and audit. It is important that at the end of the emergency, you, the practitioner and supplier, are not hauled before the courts to answer for things that you could have avoided had you done what was required during the emergency. 2. Seek the advice of your Chief Procurement Office where you are unsure about what to do or how to depart from your standard procurement procedures and delegations. Ensure you do not take a decision you do not understand how to take. Where you are dealing with procurement that is not essential procurement, aimed at preserving life, public safety, and well-being, execute using the normal methods of procurement, business as usual. Simply put, if it is not directly related to the emergency at hand, continue with business as usual. Pull all your guidelines, use your laws as you would if there was no emergency. And with that, I say thank you, keep safe, and look forward to another in our series. Have a good day.